Welcome back, everybody, to a brand new edition of the Bracketology special here on College Football Red Zone. I am your host, Jake, and we got ourselves to about a month into the season. I'm proud to go ahead and be the person that displays the top 25 by Redshirt Sports, which is the official top 25 poll that is used here and College Football Red Zone. And not only am I going to dive into the top 25 and specifically what do those projected college football playoff matchups look like right about now, but at the same time, what I'm also going to do too is we're going to go ahead tonight and preview every single game that is going to be happening in terms of top 25 matchups happening around the country. And we have several happening at the same time, and we're going to be in for a really good time. So I can't wait to dive into this one. It's going to be a really great video. I hope you guys genuinely enjoy. And if you do, make sure you do a few things for me real fast, right? Make sure you go ahead, hit that like button, as well as hit that subscribe button as well if you have to be brand new. There's a lot of you guys that watch my videos and you haven't really done those things. And you know, if you really like the content here, that's how you can help grow this channel, is doing both of those things. So I would truly appreciate that from the bottom of my heart if you do enjoy my content. And let's go ahead and dive into it, right? Let's not waste too much more time after that. Top 25, and we'll get things started here with what we have in terms of if the season were to end today. According to this top 25 poll from Redshirt Sports, which is again our official poll, we're not using the AP, what is that top 25 looking like, and what is that college football playoff looking like if the season ended today? So at the very top, we don't have a lot of change, right? Your first three teams, Ohio State, Penn State, and LSU, they have not moved from their 1 through 3 positions, right? Ohio State's still going to be your number 1 team. Penn State is still chilling at number 2. LSU still at number 3. We do have one newcomer, though, and that is the Georgia Bulldogs. The Georgia Bulldogs, they do come in, big win against Tennessee, a gutsy win, a championship effort. And we saw that in that matchup on the road in Neyland Stadium, one of the toughest environments to play in. And so to come out on top in spite of, really facing some adversity in that game, I mean, the Georgia Bulldogs do have to get a tremendous amount of respect for that. So they did move up to number 4 into the Redshirt Sports Top 25. There is a tie for 4th, though. The Miami Hurricanes also had the same number of points as the Georgia Bulldogs. I saw it in Georgia at number 4 on the graphic, primarily because when it comes to tiebreakers, I go off of my personal ballot. I am a voter on this Redshirt Sports Top 25, and we did went ahead and we did vote Georgia higher than Miami, but Miami would still be your 5th best team, and there is a new G5 representative, or I guess if you really want to think of it this way, the team that is back after a couple weeks is Tulane. Tulane putting together a really good resume. Tulane would be your 12 seed, and they come in ranked number 22 in the country. We'll talk about Tulane later tonight, but Tulane already has multiple Power Conference wins, right? Beating Duke at home, as well as beating Northwestern at home as well. So a couple of solid Power Conference wins, convincing Power Conference wins. And then, really just haven't had the bad loss yet either. USF was in here last week, but then they got skull-drugged by Miami. I think USF would have still been ranked if they lost, but it was at least a competitive game. But it was not a competitive game whatsoever. Miami really flexing its muscles, and they really have in the early going. Really good win against Notre Dame, which we'll talk about them in a second as well. But then also coming out and getting that at the time ranked win against Southern Florida, and then of course not rolling over for Boone-Cookman either. So Miami, really good program right now. They're humming along early in the year. So we have them as the 5 seed. Then we get into the 6 and 11 game, and things get really interesting there too. So the Oregon Ducks would be hosting as your number 6 seed at this time, but the 11 seed would go to your highest ranked Big 12 team as of this time. And that is Texas Tech, which is all the way down at number 13, which means there is a couple of at-large teams that are ranked ahead of Texas Tech that are getting a little bit screwed over as of right now. So Texas Tech would be your 11 seed, but the way that Texas Tech has been playing as well, granted they haven't really played anybody yet, but they've been dominant in their games, which is why Texas Tech is ranked so highly regarded, and currently your highest ranked Big 12 team in the nation right now. And I think that Oregon Texas Tech game, Oregon really a team that's also been dominating as well. So, just one of those games where I think that would be a really fun game to watch, Oregon and Texas Tech. So, definitely something to keep an eye on as we progress further into the year in terms of how those playoff matchups go ahead and match up. 7 seed Florida State is hanging strong. They are riding high off of a huge win against Alabama as of right now. They also beat up on East Texas A&M convincingly before being on bye the last weekend. They get back into action against Kent State, and they would be hosting the Texas Longhorns. The Texas Longhorns actually would be your last at-large team at this time. They're going to be your 10 seed, and Texas, while they only have the one loss to the number 1 team in the nation, the other 2 games, they haven't looked great in either offensively, whether it be the San Jose game or whether it be in the most recent matchup against UTEP, only winning 27-10. It was more competitive than originally anticipated. So Texas continuing to slip, and certainly something to monitor as they now host Sam Houston, searching for their first win. We'll see if Texas can find their footing offensively, because Florida State certainly riding on all cylinders, really able to beat a more physical team against Alabama, which is a very rare thing to do. And then finally, your 8-9 matchup right now is going to be Illinois taking on Oklahoma. Illinois coming back with all that returning production, and so far they looked pretty good, and we're going to talk about really both of these teams later tonight. But Illinois looking pretty good. They got a test against Indiana this weekend, which we'll dive into later tonight. And then Oklahoma, going to be taking on an Auburn team that did just recently get into the top 25, which is really fascinating about Auburn. I personally did not rank them into my top 25, but this is the perfect game that would show the Auburn Tigers whether they're a top 25 worthy team or not. So it's kind of like a wait or see. If Auburn does beat Oklahoma, though, like obviously Auburn would be ranked, at least in my personal ballot. But this is kind of like a wait and see mode at this time, right? So definitely something to monitor going forward. As for what's going on throughout the rest of the top 25, so we had 4 teams that are trending upward pretty significantly. So Texas A&M last week was ranked number 18 in the nation. They worked their way up to number 11, so that's good for +7 spots. And again, that's off of a really gutsy win versus Notre Dame, really matching them pound for pound. And hey, maybe they did get a little lucky. There might have been a holding call that maybe should have happened, but it didn't happen. But here's the counter argument to all that. You should have played better to a point where you're not putting the outcome of the game into the hands of the officials. There are certainly moments where Notre Dame could have won this game earlier, and there are certainly mistakes that could have been avoided that would have made this maybe a more comfortable win for Notre Dame. But I mean, that's really the story of the Notre Dame season right now, 0-2, but really bouncing off a couple bounces here or there. We could be talking about a 2-0 Notre Dame team and arguably the best resume in college football, and an argument to be ranked number 1 in the nation. I mean, that's really the difference between current reality and maybe what hypothetically would have been if like a play would have went a different way in both games, because it's where we went down to the last play in both circumstances, which is why I am shocked, as well as a little disappointed to see Notre Dame no longer ranked in the top 25. Guys, I understand that Notre Dame, we're a month in the season, and I understand that they're starting the year off 0-2, and that's not a great look. I completely understand that. But every loss has context, and not every record is built equally. One of the arguments that I hate the most is you are what your record says you are. And that's simply not true. I mean, especially if we want to have conversations about strength of schedule. Notre Dame has had the most difficult two games, like first two games, out of any team in college football right now, bar none. I don't think there is any team, if you just compare each team's first two games, compare them to Notre Dame, I don't think any matchup particularly stacks up. And I mean, look at this poll right now. Miami is a number five team in the nation and is receiving first place votes in our ballot, while Texas A&M, they're ranked number 11. I have Texas A&M ranked as a top 10 team right now. I think Texas A&M is a legitimate threat to win the SEC. And you play both of those teams and you lose by a combined 4 points. Both of those losses coming at the basically the last play of the game, last meaningful play of the game. It really goes to show how good Notre Dame is. And so, with that being said, should they have moved down from their original ranking? Absolutely. They absolutely should. But at the same time, I'm just saying that I think there isn't 25 teams in the nation that would have done a better job at playing those first two games than Notre Dame would have. I guess is really what I'm trying to say. And it really diminishes the thought of strength of schedule, right? Because essentially you're punishing Notre Dame for scheduling up early in the year and losing those games more so than maybe if you would have played an FCS cupcake or maybe like a really low level G5 school. Like, you're telling Notre Dame essentially that they would have been better off doing that than actually playing high level competition. But I'm gonna get off my high horse on that one. Moving on, Texas Tech. Texas Tech did move up 7 spots as well, from 20 to 13. Again, really fascinating. First big test going on the road against Utah. We'll talk about that game soon, but that could be a game that could decide the Big 12, man. That's going to be a really fun game to watch. I can't wait to see that in Utah. Speaking of the devil, I mean, Utah also moved up 7 spots. They were 21st last week. They're now up to number 14. Technically a tie for 14th, but again, I have Utah ranked higher on my ballot than Georgia Tech right now. Which, speaking of Georgia Tech, really good win. Really good win for Georgia Tech last week, beating Clemson at home. Really a program breakthrough type of moment. You could say what you want about Clemson, and I think Clemson is not living up to those expectations that a lot of people had in the preseason. I think that's saying it politely, but that's still a really quality win for Georgia Tech. And the Yellow Jackets deserve their flowers in a team that essentially controls its own destiny at this point. Because if you're going to win the ACC for most of the 2010s and the 2020s, it has ran through Clemson. And so Georgia Tech getting that win, huge morale booster in terms of that seasonal outlook. Now, a bunch of teams entering the top 25, as well as a bunch of other teams leaving top 25. We had 6 new transitions. Vanderbilt is in at number 19. They dominate against South Carolina. South Carolina was ranked number 11 last week, and because it was such a dominating win, Vanderbilt is now ranked in the top 25. South Carolina not even ranked by us at this point. Michigan, welcome back to the Michigan Wolverines. They left after a loss against Oklahoma a couple weeks ago. But as we talked about, Oklahoma is a really quality team. And then they dominated Central Michigan 63 to 3. So at the bare minimum, I mean, that's a top 25 team, and I'm glad to see them back at 21. Tulane, now your highest ranked G5 team at number 22, got that second Power 5 win, and currently on track to get the 12 seed in the college football playoff. Auburn, we kind of already talked about them a little bit. Kind of a prove-it game coming up for them against Oklahoma. We'll see how Auburn stacks up. They looked a little shaky against South Alabama, which is why I'm a little surprised to see them here. But, my fellow ballot folks probably will disagree with me. I think the majority of the people that voted on this did put Auburn in. Missouri's in at number 24 as well. The Missouri Tigers, they've looked really good. They've looked really impressive early on in the year. They got South Carolina this week. We'll see if Missouri can maintain the focus against the South Carolina team that is going to, try to bounce back after a really bad loss. And hopefully Lenore Sellers is feeling good. But that Missouri team, man, is rolling. We know the defense is going to be really good. offense might be better than expected, and that's a scary thought to have in what's going to be a really competitive SEC. We also finally see USC ranked. Yes, we got it. Number 25, baby. Let's go. I've had USC ranked since the preseason, and I'm glad that my fellow ballot folks finally have seen the light of truth and have ranked USC. Welcome to the USC Trojans, man. Love to see it. They did win their Big Ten opener against Purdue last week, dealing with those lever delays, pretty extensive lever delays, almost 3 hours. And now you get to host Michigan State in your own building. Michigan State making that trip across country, so you love to see that. Teams that did leave, obviously Clemson left, USF left. They were 16th last week. Two teams that were on bye that were ranked last week but are no longer are. BYU and Louisville. They're 24th and 25th respectfully. I mean, teams had a chance to like prove their mettle, like more so. So might have been a little bit of I guess memory fog when you don't see a team play, and sometimes teams get forgotten about. It happens, honestly. So guys, that is going to be our top 25. Definitely let me know down in the comments what you think of this top 25 poll as we get ready to entrench ourselves into week number 4. Now, I will say all compliments, please direct them to me, but any criticisms, just know that it's not my fault, and you can direct that to other people that vote on this poll. I just know that I am a messenger and that I am not wrong. It's just that sometimes players, coaches, and officials get in the way of my divine vision that I have, and we're gonna have some divine visions here tonight as well. That being said, top 25 matchups. We got 4 really good matchups that I'm pretty excited to talk about. One game that I don't think this should have been a top 25 game, but the poll disagrees. Still a fascinating game nonetheless. But you want to talk about a game that has some really big implications, and it's going to be kicking off maybe noon here on the East Coast, but brutal for the folks that are living out in the mountains. 10 a.m. kickoff where this game is going to be happening at. Number 13 Texas Tech taking on number 14 Utah. Heading out to Salt Lake City. It's a big noon kickoff game. They're going to be kicking off at 10 a.m. their time over in Rice Elk Stadium. And I cannot think of a game that has more implications early in the Big 12 than Texas Tech versus Utah this early in the year. Really happy to see that, really both of these teams performing extremely well. This could be the potential Big 12 championship. I'm not joking. I mean, right now we have Texas Tech and Utah as our 2 highest ranked Big 12 teams. So lots of implications right out of the gate just with that in mind in terms of the Big 12 conference picture. And both teams are rolling. I mean, Texas Tech, listen, they haven't played anybody, right? You have Arkansas Pine Bluff, which is a team that still is looking for its first Division I win of the year. They beat them by 60. Kent State Golden Flashes, they do have a Division I win, but haven't beaten anyone at the FBS level in a couple of years now. They dominated them at home. And then most recently, they had a 45-14 win against Oregon State. Oregon State's still searching for their first win of the season, period. And so these are not high-quality opponents by any means. But what I will say is that even though these are high-quality opponents, Texas Tech, to their credit, has dominated these teams. And is based upon their high-power offense, led by Brandon Morin, who has looked like one of the best quarterbacks in the Big 12, maybe in college football. I mean, he's thrown for double-digit touchdowns, spreading the ball out to a deep receiving core, leaning on a solid rushing attack as well. This is a very balanced offense and clearly a very explosive offense. Haven't been held to under 40 points this entire year. And the defense has looked pretty sharp too, right? Again, we haven't seen them play against high-level competition yet, but the defense has looked extremely tough. They've been aggressive, they've been generating pressure consistently, and they've also done a really good job of limiting big plays. And usually when you're an aggressive defense, that usually makes you a little bit vulnerable to allowing explosive plays, and that hasn't happened yet with Texas Tech. But clearly, this Texas Tech is also going to have their biggest test of the year. First and foremost, they're going on the road for the very first time this year. And Utah, meanwhile, got a pretty good home field advantage, and they got a really good team themselves. You know, they're entering undefeated as well. They have an actually balanced offensive attack. Imagine that. You know, they just needed a quarterback. They got their quarterback. So you love to see that. And that offensive attack, maybe it isn't, you know, the best offense in this conference. You know, no one is saying anything about that, but it's being complemented by a style of defense, you know, so they're able to play, you know, complementary football, even though there have been times where, you know, rush defense has been a little inconsistent here or there, or the third down efficiency offensively has drawn some questions as well in terms of their third down defense, especially against equally explosive offenses like the one that they're going to see against Texas Tech. So just keeping all of those things in mind. By the way, Devin Dampier, what a stud, dude. What an absolute stud. Let me check the model real fast. Let me go ahead and pull this up. And I'm going to take a drink of water because I'm thirsty. So, here's what the model is telling us right now. So, as a recording of this video, so FanDuel has Utah as a 3.5-point favorite. While my internal metrics are actually saying that Utah should be a little bit more heavily favored, a 5-point favorite. And, you know, I'm thinking about what Texas Tech has done, and I think about what Utah has been doing over the course of the year, and I'm actually going to disagree with my model to start the night off. Even though both teams haven't really played anybody substantial yet, when thinking things through the like the back burner, I think Utah has shown at least slightly more signs of vulnerability than Texas Tech has had this year. You know, really thinking about to Utah's last game against Wyoming, for example. I mean, they were able to win comfortably, but it was a really close game at the half for them, and they weren't able to pull away until deep in the second half. Wyoming could be a solid team in the Mountain West, but Wyoming was a team that didn't have very high expectations going into this season. So I think about that game for Utah, where they've had slightly more signs of vulnerability than Texas Tech has, where, you know, they haven't really shown any weaknesses yet. They may have some questions in terms of how much can they replicate from their first 3 games against their first legitimate defense of the year. But at this time, I just feel a little bit more confident about Texas Tech right now than Utah. Again, 2 very good teams that are going to have a lot of say in terms of how the Big 12 shapes out this year. I think that's been made evident in how the first quarter of the year has gone. But I look at this game, and I think with how Texas Tech has kind of checked more boxes, so to speak, than what Utah has checked so far this year. And so I'm looking at this Texas Tech team. I don't think they just go ahead and cover. I actually think they can go on the road and outright win this thing as a road underdog. I think it's going to be a highly competitive game. I think there's a lot of shootout potential that's here in our midst. But I think Texas Tech does win this one, 34-30. I think it's going to be the final score, and what I truly think is going to be an epic display of offense here to start our college football Saturday. One that we cannot ask for a better start, that's for sure. That's some good tasting water, by the way. Just trying to keep myself hydrated. Gotta make sure you stay hydrated, guys. It is, you know, I don't know how you guys are in the state of, but in the state of Ohio, like we're having a little heat wave right now. We're not having a great time. So you can pray for us Midwesterners, man. We have been down horrendous, to say the least. But I'm sure it's hotter in the next couple of places that we're going to talk about. Both the next 2 games involving the SEC heavily, and one that's arguably going to be one of the more important games, I think, happening in the SEC this week. It's number 23 Auburn. Going to be making the road trip. First true road test of the year for the Auburn Tigers. Unless you want to count the Baylor game. Baylor's a good team, but this Oklahoma team is on another level right now. Coming in ranked number 9 in the nation. They're going to Norman Stadium, one of the toughest environments in all of college football, man. And you want to talk about a somewhat prime spot, 3:30 ABC, and we're going to really see how good Auburn is, man, because, listen, Oklahoma, we knew that they were going to be an impressive defensive unit. I don't think that's was ever going to be a question, and that was held evident as, Michigan barely scored above double digits, and then Temple, they were just held to a field goal, and, generally Oklahoma, they've done a fantastic job limiting those explosive plays in both of their FBS matchups. But the offense, man, this offense is really starting to improve and figure things out. I had concerns about Oklahoma's rushing attack early in the year after they struggled to really run the ball against Illinois State. Quality FCS program, but, you're talking about an SEC offensive line going up against an FCS defensive front seven, and you can't move the ball on the ground. I thought that was a big concern. But in a couple of games since then, they've figured something out, and figure something out without asking John Mateer to run the ball 15 to 20 times. And that's really important because John Mateer did run the ball extensively against Michigan a couple 2 to 3 weeks ago. And so that was something that, was having back in my mind, right? Like, is this someone that's, oh my goodness, are they going to have to do that in terms of Oklahoma being consistently successful? If so, it's going to be hard for John Mateer to stay healthy for a full year. Looks like it might actually not be the case. They've improved their rushing attack. Meanwhile, Auburn having a little bit of renaissance offensively as well, and particularly Jackson Arnold. One of the biggest issues that Jackson Arnold had during his time in Oklahoma was that he really struggled to take care of the football. And so far, Jackson Arnold, give him all the credit in the world, man. He has really cleaned that part of his game up. He has not thrown a single interception so far this year, and I think Jackson Arnold deserves a lot of credit for that. Throwing for over 500 yards and 4 touchdowns as well. And it also helps that they have a strong running game too, led by Jeremiah Cobb. He's ran for over 100 yards a game, 4 rushing touchdowns as well. So I'm sure that offensive balance really helps in terms of keeping the defense guessing and not putting too much on Jackson Arnold. But we're really starting to see Jackson Arnold get closer to his ceiling. And I think that's really promising news, especially if you're an Auburn Tigers fan moving forward. And you feel like now, hey, we have a legitimate shot to come in here and beat Oklahoma. Which I think would have been, if you would have told an Auburn fan that they had a legitimate shot going into this game, I think you're elated and you really like the progress being made under Hugh Freeze. But does the model feel the same way? Let's go ahead and find out real fast. So, the model is somewhat kind to Auburn, but whether you're looking at FanDuel or you're looking at our internal power rating model, Oklahoma is favored. FanDuel, it's about a touchdown favorite, but for our internal model, it's a little bit higher. Oklahoma listed as a 10-point favorite. So, after looking at FanDuel and looking at the internal metrics, I really took a closer dive. I guess looking at specific matchups for this game at the micro level. And after taking a look, I can certainly see why. I really like this Oklahoma team in this spot. Sure, you could talk about the home field advantage, and that's, a nice automatic thing to default to. But really going beyond the home field advantage. One criticism I will say about Auburn is that they've had some inconsistencies at times in its ability to pass protect, which is something that I think, as defensively gifted that Oklahoma has been, I think that's something that they can take advantage of. So, as much as I really want to roll with the Jackson Arnold revenge arc being completed, I don't necessarily think it happens here. I don't think it's necessarily going to be that happy ending that Jackson Arnold is going to want to have. I think it's going to be a battle, but I do think that Oklahoma is going to ultimately come out on top, winning 27-20. So I'm saying that Oklahoma not only wins, but leaning towards the Oklahoma Sooners covering. I'm not too confident on the cover or not, but we're going to say that they do. Should be a really competitive game, though. Maybe a little bit more low scoring than some of these other top 25 matchups that are going to be going on. speaking of those top 25 matchups, because we did see a new team ranked in the top 25, an opportunity was gifted to Ole Miss, which I'm sure Ole Miss is really excited about, having an extra opportunity at having a quality win. Number 12 Ole Miss, they get to come, they still get to be at home. I think they were at home last week against Arkansas. They get to welcome an equally undefeated team in Tulane, who recently just got ranked into the top 25. First time this season, the second time that they have been foreseen as the highest regarded G5 team in Redshirt Sports top 25. And now it's promising to be one of the more anticipated non-conference showdowns of the early season. I mean, Lane Kiffin he's got this offense rolling again with like Austin Simmons, and then I don't remember the full name, but it was a Ferris State quarterback transfer. I think like Trinidad James or something. I'm having a complete brain fart. If Ole Miss fans, if y'all can let me know down in the comments. But he looks pretty good as well. You know, either way, whether it's Austin Simmons or Trinidad James, been getting some very explosive plays in the passing game, and really among the nation's leaders in getting those explosive plays through that passing attack, which is really a staple in the Lane Kiffin offense. Just, you know, being able to line up that scoreboard, and it looks like it's been no different here in 2025. Now, that being said, on the other side, that doesn't mean that Tulane doesn't have a chance, right? I mean, they're arriving into Oxford, Mississippi. They are surging with confidence after already beating a couple of power conference opponents in Northwestern and Duke. They're led by Jake Redsoff, who really has, I guess, really grasped the playbook in his short time in the Bayou. And, you know, look at what he did most recently against the Duke Blue Devils, against a power conference defense. You know, he ran for over 100 yards, and he had 4 total touchdowns in that 34-27 win against the Duke Blue Devils. And I think that's really valuable. You know, Jake Redsoff, who has power conference experience, by the way, and playing against power conference teams, that is, you know, that's one of the reasons why, you know, I think Tulane genuinely does have a puncher's chance. You know, not to mention like one of the strengths that they have, a couple of their strengths, is that their defense can be optimistic. You know, thinking back to the Northwestern game where forcing Preston Stone to have the worst game of his career, and being efficient in the red zone. This is one of the more efficient teams in college football from an offensive side of things in terms of finishing drives in the red zone, which I think really bodes well for the Green Wave. Now, all of that being said, as we pull up the model, I mean, it is going to be an uphill climb, right? To be able to, you know, come out of Oxford, Mississippi and make this win happen. FanDuel and our internal metrics are roughly on the same page here. FanDuel has that Ole Miss is 11.5-point favorite. Our model is like a tad higher, like about a 2 touchdown favorite, you know, really like 13 points. If Ole Miss shows cracks in terms of consistently getting third downs, or they give up explosive plays, because the defense has been a little bit more shakier. You know, they've shown signs of vulnerability against Kentucky, and they also showed signs of vulnerability last week against Arkansas. Arkansas lost that game, but they still went out, and they you know, they try to make something shake, right? So Ole Miss, like in that like circumstance, they're like, it's a losable game for the Rebels. This is a game that they should not take lightly whatsoever. They do have the historical edge, though. That is one thing that Ole Miss certainly does have going. The last 13 times these teams played, Ole Miss has won every single time, and so they're really looking to try to make this a 14th consecutive game. Now, I want Tulane to win this game. I really am pulling for a Green Wave, like from a personal standpoint, but I don't necessarily think that happens. I do think that that Ole Miss offense, with, you know, their ability to generate explosive plays, I think that's going to be a little bit too much for Tulane to handle. And so I think I'm going to lean towards Tulane covering. I think Tulane does cover legitimately, but at the same time, I don't think that they have enough firepower to keep up with Ole Miss offensively. I just don't think that's necessarily in the cards. So I'm going with Ole Miss winning 38-27. But I think Tulane is going to put up a really good fight, and they're going to continue to cement themselves as one of the best G5 teams in the country, and continue to build some momentum and confidence, because they're going to need it. That American Conference is actually going to be really tough. Really, I guess a really good metaphor that I thought about is like the American Conference this year is essentially like, the SEC of G5 football. I mean, like that's how good the American is. And that's even beyond like your typical contenders in like Tulane and Memphis. There's a whole crop of teams that could win the American this year. It's that good over there. So that takes us to one more top 25 game that we got going on right now. And it's a game that we aren't going to see happen until 7:30 Eastern. Number 8 Illinois is going to make its first major road trip of the college football season. They're going to go travel down, actually technically down or up. I don't know where Champaign, Illinois is in relation to Bloomington. They're going to travel eastward. We'll just put it that way. They're traveling eastward, taking on the Indiana Hoosiers. Big marquee matchup. Has some major Big Ten implications, really for both teams, and really a game that could swing in either direction. Just based on what we've seen early on from betting markets. I mean, 5.5 point favorite on FanDuel right now, and a 2.5 point favorite. Like if you look at our internal metrics, so like this is really the quintessential toss-up game, and both teams coming in playing pretty dominant ball, right? I mean, Indiana, they're coming in like they just posted a 73-0 win over their their in-state opponents at Indiana State. Fernando Mendoza, in particular, looks extremely sharp. I'm talking about 19 of 20 passing, 5 touchdowns through the air, plus another one on the ground. And that rushing attack was also really pouring it on that Indiana State game, too. They ran for over 300 yards with the freshman Kobe Martin, talented freshman. He led the charge, but that doesn't mean that Illinois wasn't doing anything either, right? They played a slightly better team in Western Michigan, and they were able to come out. They're looking to they close out non-conference play unbeaten, and really putting like a nice bow on it with a 38-0 win against Western Michigan with like Luke Altmaier and Caden Fegan in the background, both contributing with really solid performances. That does include a 100-yard rushing game from Caden Fegan last time out. One thing that I think Illinois will need to work on is that Illinois has had some slow starts in the first half. And we saw it rear its ugly head in the Duke game for Illinois. And that is something that Brett Bielema has acknowledged. And it hasn't hurt them yet. They're able to turn it up a notch in the second half. But this is also the best team that Illinois has went up against so far this year. Indiana is on a higher level right now than the Duke Blue Devils are. So definitely a game, almost like a save the best for less type deal. Really the only I think the one game that would challenge it would be like Texas Tech and Utah, but like the Illinois and Indiana game could definitely be the most marquee game that we see over the course of week number 4. I am dead serious. Major implications, not only in the Big Ten, but really the overall college football playoff picture, because whoever wins this game is going to get some serious momentum as both teams are going to start entrenching themselves in the Big Ten conference play. I do expect Indiana to impose their physicality early, trying to lean on that running game and efficient passing under Fernando Mendoza, while Illinois, on the other hand, they're going to be looking for that offensive rhythm and really just trying to avoid falling behind too far out of the gate. With this being a toss-up, it's really one of those games where special teams and turnovers could really swing this game in one direction or the other. Now, as I have the model up, and I've had the model up for quite some time, I really look at this Indiana-Illinois game, and I think about what both teams have done this year. So, Indiana has had their fair share of issues earlier in the year, especially in terms of finishing drives particularly in the red zone. But it does also seem like those issues are starting to address themselves over the course of the last couple of games, not only in the Indiana State game, but like the Kennesaw State game as well. You know, good tune-up games for Indiana. But as for Illinois, I don't know if those slow starts that Illinois has been experiencing turns itself around against Indiana. So I think because Indiana, I think they're further along in fixing the flaws that they're currently facing as a team. I think they're a little bit farther along than Illinois is right now, combined with the fact that this game just so has to be happening in Bloomington, Indiana, and it's going to be a packed house. They packed that place out for the Indiana State game, where it was expected to be a splattering. This place is going to be rocking on Saturday night, and it's going to be great to see that from college football's perspective. I'm going to disagree with my model here in the sense, not only do I think Indiana wins, I actually think they also cover as well. So it should still be a highly entertaining game. My model is saying that Illinois is going to cover, but I disagree with that assessment. I'm actually going to go with Indiana covering this instance, winning by a final score of 30-24. Which, hey man, that is 4 top 25 matchups that we covered over the course of tonight. I hope you guys enjoyed seeing the brand new Redshirt Sports Top 25 poll, as well as seeing really going in depth with all of the top 25 matchups that are going to be happening around the country over the course of your college football Saturday. With that being said, guys, this is Jake from College Football Red Zone signing off. Hopefully, if you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button, hit subscribe. That genuinely does help the channel out. And with that being said, boys, I'm going to be signing off, but I hope you guys are all out there having a good one. Good night, everybody.